was a very kind introduction, and as people always say, once you get a great introduction, tell them you can't speak, because it won't get any better than that. But thank you to Mark for your hard work as the Speaker of the House, and to Mark and Justin for holding the line against a governor who's going to get talked about a lot this weekend. And thank you for mentioning Ruth. I don't know if I can talk about it, but what a brave woman, and aren't we proud that she comes from Maine and was willing to stand up for what's right, and we were willing to help her and support her. So you all know it's just the nicest thing ever to be in a room full of Democrats. Thank you for being here. You're going to have a great 2 days, and I feel very fortunate that you allowed me to be here on the opening night and get things going. I know it's going to be a very exciting convention. Tomorrow you'll hear from two wonderful candidates who are working hard to fill the big shoes of Mike Mishu, which isn't going to be easy, but they're going to be great. And you're going to hear from the brightest, most hardworking, most thoughtful Senate candidate in America. We need Shenabellos. For all of you giving me the honor and privilege of serving you in Congress. I'm going to work very hard to make sure that opportunity continues. I have to say there is just as much work to do, if not more, than when I first ran in 2008. The political climate is probably worse. The approval rating of Congress, as you know, is only 10%, and there is a reason for that. The Republican Party, we're all Democrats, has become the party of obstruction, and that is very clear when you served in today's Congress. Every day, I see evidence of this. At a time when American people are struggling, when the economy is lagging, when there is so much work to be done, they continue to obstruct, to play politics, to introduce bills that just cater to the TV talk shows, and we have so much work to do. I can make a list. Most of you know it all so well. I'm sure that you know that we just had our 52nd vote to roll back the Affordable Care Act. How many times do we have to say no? And I thank all of my good friends in the legislature for working so hard to fight against the Republicans, doing your very best to bring Medicaid expansion to this state, but it's all the same now. Who control our Congress today have blocked bills that would allow for fair pay for women. They blocked an anti-outsourcing bill. They blocked one jobs bill after another. They even blocked a bill that would protect rape victims. In all, they have blocked 500 bills, we counted them, that would have helped the middle class. I'm sure all of you remember that on the first day President Obama was elected, they apparently had a secret meeting, but later Congressman Pete Sessions said that they had decided to do everything they could to block the president. In fact, they were going to have something like a Taliban insurgency. And we've seen it day after day after day. There are a lot of parallels, of course, between the Republican obstructionism of Congress and what's going on with the Republican legislators and Governor LePage here in this state. No one can help but talk about Governor LePage. Now, the governor, as you know, is crazily critical of me. But I say the governor can criticize me all he wants. He can blame me all he wants. He can call me that liberal Chellie Pingree. But look. I know I find a friend in this room. But really, I don't mind. If liberal means that you care about universal to access health care, I'm good about that. If it means that you think it's time to raise the minimum wage and even get back to talking about a living wage, I'm right there with that. If a liberal means you believe it's okay, and if it's not okay, to have this growing gap between the rich and the poor, which just gets bigger every day, and the shrinking middle class. If you think that's not okay, then that probably means you're a liberal too. I think that being a liberal means means we can't stick our head in the sands anymore and pretend that there's no climate change, that the ocean around us isn't getting warmer and more acidic, that the weather isn't strange. If that's what being a liberal is, I'm with it. If being a liberal means you think there should be a label on the food people buy that says where it comes from, how it was grown, maybe if there are toxic chemicals in it or altered seeds. In fact, when it comes to food, I think being a liberal means you think everybody should be able to put food on their table and feed their families, even if they've gone through tough times, a job loss, a healthcare crisis, or maybe it just means they don't get paid enough on the job, but they shouldn't be denied the opportunity to provide food for their families and be able to afford it. I think the thing is, if you're a liberal, it just means that, like me, you and obstructionist Republicans just don't see eye to eye. One more thing. I'm sure none of you do. Back to the governor, he can blame me all he wants. But we shouldn't let him blame people who don't deserve it. We shouldn't let him blame everybody else for the things that are going wrong. We all know that the governor's attacked public schools, the teachers who work so hard, even our students. At the same time, he's trying to slash funding for schools by cutting revenue sharing and proposing cuts to K-12 education. The governor's attacked Maine workers. He said that 47% of able-bodied Mainers don't work. It's just not the truth. He's tried again and again to undermine organized labor. He blames them. The governor attacks people who are struggling in this economy, people who we call poor. He criticizes them and blames them and says that they're just cheating the system. Now let's remember, the average benefit for a person receiving SNAP or food stamps is $1.40 per meal. Not too many people could get by on that. But the governor is doing everything he can to cut those benefits, to make it harder for recipients, and then to embarrass them for being in a time of need. We all know this is a time that working families have suffered. We've watched real wages decline in this country. The minimum wage is the lowest in real terms in the last 50 years. People have to work harder and harder to afford college. There are still 3 people for every open job, yet the governor keeps blaming them. He's a bad CEO. He's become a national embarrassment, chased away a major international energy company and their $1 billion investment in offshore wind, signed up a shady consultant for $1 million, no bid, no work, no show contract. I think you heard about that one. Frankly, a day doesn't go by in Washington or somewhere in Maine that somebody doesn't walk up to me and say, "What is going on with your governor? What did he do today?" Okay, that was enough about the governor. But it's frustrating, and I have to say, when you get going, it's a little hard to stop. I think you all know. So the good news is, as we all know, now there's going to be Mike Mishu. Mike and I, we just finished voting this afternoon. We got on a 3 p.m. U.S. air flight to Portland. And when we were getting lined up for the plane in Washington, there was a little chaos and a lot of people, and I was standing in front of Mike getting in the line. And all of a sudden I heard someone say, "Hey, Governor." And I turned around, and Mike turned around, and it was like music to my ears. Someone was calling Mike the Governor. So Mike is so well regarded and well respected in Congress. I have to tell you, a lot of my colleagues are really sorry to see him go. They know how important it is for him to take on this task, for he's going to be missed in the United States Congress. I've known Mike since I was a state legislator. He's been extremely competent at everything he did, well respected when he was in Maine, now that he's in Washington. He has a unique way of working with people of all types, both sides of the aisle. He's going to be great working with the Maine legislature. He's very good at bringing about a compromise, figuring out how to come to a solution, making sure that everybody finds something they want, while he still hangs on to his very deep values and principles. Don't let any of those other candidates fool you. Mike cares deeply about Maine veterans. He's worked so hard to help Maine veterans across the United States. He's the ranking member of the Veterans Committee in the United States Congress, and even during these tough times, he was there late last night, late the night before, every night, trying to work through the problems were going on. He's very well respected and doing everything that he can. As you know, Mike is the chair of the Trade Working Group in Congress, and in that position, he has fought so hard to keep us from entering into bad trade agreements, things like NAFTA and things that did not help the manufacturing sector and the working people of our state and across the country. Nobody fights harder for that than Mike. Everyone turns to him in Congress when they want to know what to do next. I want to tell you one more little story about Mike. A couple of months ago, as you recall, we were launching a ship at Bath Iron Works, and all of us, the delegation, were sitting up on the platform, as well as a lot of military people who had come to see this amazing event of the hardest working shipbuilders in the world and the craft that they had produced. When they say Bath built is best built. So Mike was on the podium, he was on my right, and to my left there was a high-ranking official from the Pentagon, and as we were settling in, I turned to the man on my left and I said, well, do you know Congressman Michaud? Just what kind of politeness you have in those situations. And he looked at me and he said, do I know Mike Michaud? I just rode over with him on the bus, and he talked my ear off about American-made shoes. Mike so many times, whether it's the United States Trade Representative, whether it's the leadership in Congress, Democrat or Republican, or one day in a recent caucus with the President, where Mike didn't let the President off the hook on this. And as you know, just recently the executive branch said, Uncle, we will go along with American-made shoes. He's working hard, as you all know. Maine is so ready for a change, and we are all going to help Mike make this happen. It'll be Governor Mike all the time. So before I come to a close here and join you all at some opportunities to gather together and talk about all the work we have to do in the coming year, let me try to say a few positive things about Congress. You know, you all hear every day, and I talk about it all the time, how little we can get done, how this is considered the most do-nothing Congress of all times. In fact, you've probably heard me say before that Steny Hoyer once said, it was an insult to the do-nothing Congress of the Truman administration to call us the do-nothing Congress, because we do so little, and it is so instructive. But once in a while, I want to remind you, we do something that's not so bad. Now, the Affordable Care Act, as everyone knows in this room, I wanted single payer, as many of you did. I wanted the public option, and maybe we'll get back there. But the fact is, we came to a compromise, and we are moving forward on making sure that every man, woman, and child is covered by affordable health care insurance in this country, as it should be. A bad website, close to 10 million people have now signed up and gained health insurance. Many or most of them didn't have coverage before. We are on track for 20 million next year and 25 million in 2016. The healthcare costs for employers has begun to slow down, and many of you know so many good things have already happened. You can keep your young person and your family on your policy until they're 26, helping people bridge that gap between college and finding a job. You can't be booted off, and your children can't be booted off for a pre-existing condition, and being a woman is no longer a pre-existing condition. keep in mind that every once in a while Congress has a surprising moment when Republicans and Democrats can come together. We were in session very late last night, finishing up a appropriations bill, and there were a lot of amendments. Many of them we didn't vote on until after midnight. And we actually had a Republican and Democrat agreement on a variety of things. We passed an amendment that allowed for the continuation of industrial hemp in states like Maine. We passed an amendment, there you go, hemp lovers. Don't laugh, it's a $500 million industry that we're not taking advantage of in this country, so there's a lot of opportunities out there. I know many of you will appreciate that we passed an amendment that said if your state allows medical marijuana, the Justice Department can't come in and mess with your state. To show you that strange things happen to Republicans and Democrats in Congress after midnight. We passed an amendment that said reporters can protect the privacy of their source. Who's not going to like that? But it's going to be done. And last week in the Agriculture Appropriations Committee, where the Republicans did terrible things to the school lunch program, I have to say, we did one good amendment where the Republicans and Democrats came together and said, chicken that comes from big agribusiness grown in the United States, then shipped to China for processing, then returned to the United States, can't be put in our children's school lunch. Even Republicans don't want their children to eat Chinese chicken. So speaking of food, I just want to say that I feel so fortunate to represent Maine for many, many reasons. But because I serve on the Agriculture Committee and now the Agriculture Appropriations Committee, it is so nice to represent a state where people really care deeply about the food that they eat and protecting the farmers who grow it. Maine people are so committed in reforming our food system. I saw a statistic the other day, which some of you might have seen, that 8 in 10 people in Maine go out of their way to buy locally grown food. It's creating an economic revolution in rural parts of our state. The average age of our farmers is going down. The number of farms under cultivation is going up. That's not happening in too many places in this country, and it is a great economic opportunity. And on the Agriculture Committee, although the Republicans were completely wrong when they said we should go along with the Ryan budget and make deep cuts into food stamps, SNAP benefits for people, they were wrong this week to roll back standards in our student school lunch that said we're going to cut back on sugar and salt and processed foods and the things that are creating an obesity epidemic and a childhood diabetes epidemic with our kids. We do get along once in a while in the committee, and I've been very privileged to work with a lot of people on both sides of the aisle to get some good things into the Farm Bill on local food, organic food, opening up new markets. We were able to add 3 times as much money to promote farmers markets and local food. We added $100 million into the bill to provide those people who go to the farmers market and use their SNAP benefits, people who are struggling in this economy, who want to get a little more healthy food, to double what they buy from government benefits. Programs that allow our farmers to do more with their product, to turn milk into cheese, to put hoop houses in their backfields, to do much more to extend the season. And I am so proud of the Maine legislature that took on this issue while they were taking on so many, including one that said our state institutions should buy more local food. Now the governor vetoed that, but you guys overrode the veto. You again, whether it's food and farming, economic justice, environment, understanding that our environment has to be healthy and we can have good jobs at the same time. Maine people have such good common sense, and I am so proud to represent the 1st Congressional District and to be able to take that common sense wisdom with me when I make decisions on how to vote, how to help people. I feel so proud to represent such hardworking people, many of whom are just doing their best to make ends meet every day, even though the governor wouldn't help them enhance their health insurance benefits. They pull it together every day and keep food on their table and help their families. I want to say one more time how grateful I am to the Democratic legislators who had such a tough session and fought back every day. And we have to make sure we keep that majority and we return every last one that's income limited back to the Maine legislature. So again, I know you're all going to work so hard to make sure we elect Chellie Pingree to the United States Senate. It couldn't be a more perfect time to hang on to the majority, to have a roadblock from the crazy things the Republicans in the House do, and to elect such a wonderful, articulate spokesman for the things that we care about, to be a new member of the United States Senate. And I know you're all going to work very hard to make sure whichever Democrat is elected in the second CD, we get them to Washington. We need every Democrat we can to get ourselves back in the majority, to get back to work, to get back to doing the things that we care about, for standing up for the principles that you and I care so much about. That second CD seat is critical to Maine and to all of my colleagues in the United States Congress. And I know you know, nobody's going to rest until Mike Michaud is the new governor of Maine. So thank you again so much for giving me the privilege to serve in what's now my third term in Congress. I'm going to work as hard as I can to find my way back there again. It's going to take everybody's help. I'm going to be helping everybody else out there. If I have the opportunity to do that again, it'll be a great privilege and an honor to serve all of you and to serve the people of Maine. Thank you very much.